The masculine energy is being called into maturity and self-leadership instead of performance or avoidance. And the feminine energy is being invited into embodied sovereignty instead of holding the connection through emotional labor. The collective energy right now is really pushing polarity toward integration. This is a point of no return. The old way cannot hold anymore. The only way forward is connection rooted in wholeness. Hi, I'm Hanneke. Welcome. In this video, we're looking at the current astrological shift and why it marks a turning point for twin flames and divine counterparts. Now, I usually don't do an energy update in between the full moon and the new moon, but this is really intense energy right now. I've been seeing it in my surroundings, with my clients, and also, of course, I feel it myself, so I really wanted to come on to discuss what is happening and how to move forward. So let's look at what has happened the past week, because that's what we're integrating right now. On February 17th, we had this solar eclipse in Aquarius. I'm not going into details anymore because that was my previous video, and if you haven't watched it, you can still watch it. It still has a lot of effect. We can still feel it in the next couple of months. So the solar eclipse was a structural event, and it shifted the energy from personal experience into impersonal clarity. And the core shift was into sovereignty. Aquarius introduces a sort of a distance so you can see patterns. Sovereignty was activated conceptually, like a reset in the architecture, and the eclipse turned on the lights. And then on February 18th, the sun entered Pisces. Pisces opens the emotional field. Pisces dissolves boundaries. It heightens sensitivity. It softens defenses, and it amplifies compassion. But it also dissolves illusion. So after this structural reset in Aquarius, this emotional residue began to surface, and what was not yet integrated inside the new structure really became visible. So what that might have felt like is this beautiful invitation to open your heart deeper, to reconnect with that softness inside of you. But in that opening, a lot of stuff can come up, and it could feel like a regression, like old things returning, but it is just here to integrate it into the new structure. Then on February 20th, Saturn conjuncted Neptune in Aries, and this marks a huge shift. Now, the exact conjunction occurred on February 20th, but this is not a one-day event at all. Neptune takes 165 years to orbit the zodiac and spends about 14 years in one sign. And Saturn takes 29.5 years to complete a cycle, and it spends around 2.5 years in one sign. And their conjunction happens roughly every 36 to 37 years. So this is a generational architecture, generational shift. So around the 20th, you could have felt it the most intense, but the recalibration unfolds beyond, of course, that exact moment. This is the beginning of a new 36-year cycle. Now, Neptune represents spiritual ideal, romantic projection, soul connection, divine love, unity beyond ego. And Saturn represents structure, time, maturity, consequence, embodiment, boundaries. And when Saturn meets Neptune, the ideal meets reality. Illusion either solidifies into structure or it dissolves. This is incarnation energy, not fantasy, but embodiment. And if we combine this with the larger sky, Aquarius reset relational architecture, Pisces surfaced emotional residue, and this Saturn-Neptune conjunction tests integrity in Aries, the sign of identity and sovereignty. Now, how can this manifest? You could have felt this emotional reopening, followed by a trigger that exposes some sort of dependence, maybe a disillusionment, a boundary activation, or a detachment from distortion, and then a value recalibration. So what you may have experienced the past week is a complete disillusionment about the journey. You might have questioned, is this even real, this journey? Am I imagining this? And if this really is real, why do I keep being confronted by these distortions in my outer reality? Why do I not see the progress that I've made in the 3D reality? Why is that divine feminine energy that I feel on the inside, why is it still being denied in the outer reality? Why does this unhealthy dynamic keep repeating? Why does the world or my masculine does not see the depth of the love and commitment I bring to the world? And when is this finally going to happen? When will I finally be met where I am? Now, of course, not everyone experiences this exact same way, but the pattern is structurally consistent. Now, let's go deeper into what is happening here. The feminine energy often feels this climate shifts first. Saturn in Aries is actually activating the mature inner masculine. Discernment, boundaries, self-definition, accountability to the self. So this inner mature masculine steps up and is saying, no more of these unhealthy dynamics, these unhealthy behaviors. I will no longer put up with this. This has gone too far. I can no longer do this anymore. I'm sure many of you will recognize that as the divine feminine energy or the feminine polarity in the connection, we have this incredible compassion, incredible deep love for our counterpart. And in the past, often this compassion had no structure. And now this compassion is still there, we still feel it, but it has boundaries. Where you would used to interpret the behavior of the masculine as, okay, but he's having a rough time, or he's in fear, or he has commitment issues, and that's why he's behaving like that. And then you would feel this compassion and allow this behavior to still occur. And now with this Saturn in Aries, this is really the activation of the inner masculine that is saying, no more. This has gone too far. We're not doing this again. This has no place in my life anymore. I've grown out of this. And it can feel like the death of codependency. It could feel like the death of the connection, but it's actually the end of compensating for an imbalance. And it really reveals where boundary collapses to persevere the connection, and where validation is sought through the reflection. What I've seen happen with many of us as well is where we become dependent of the reflection. We rely on the mirror of our divine counterpart, the reflection in the outer reality, to validate what we are doing. Are we growing enough? Are we stepping into our sovereignty? We rely on what is being mirrored to us. But that is still polarity outsourcing instead of polarity contained within ourselves. And now we're being invited to release that and to only trust our own truth and let go of that mirror as a validation. Now for the masculine, Aquarius dismantles performance and Pisces dissolves emotional armor. Saturn in Aries is asking, can you hold your own spine? Can you lead from integrity? Can you regulate vulnerability instead of escaping it? Can you take responsibility? So where structure is absent, avoidance may surface. Where maturity is present, embodiment strengthens. When the feminine integrates her inner structure and stops compensating, either the masculine steps into responsibility or the connection destabilizes because it's dependent on imbalance. And this is a systemic recalibration. This dismantling of performance and the dissolving of emotional armor, you can look through the lens of what is my divine counterpart in the outer world doing. How does that manifest there? But what is more important even is, can you see that happening in yourself as well? Can you see how the emotional armor in yourself is dissolving, and can you see how you're being invited to not equal performance with your self-worth? What is happening right now is a collective invitation to integrated polarity, and that means containing both principles internally, emotional depth and openness with structure and boundary, loving deeply without collapsing, setting boundaries without closing the heart. Immature polarity over-identifies with one side, with either the feminine or the masculine, and projects the other on the outside world. And this transit pressures integration. It's saying, if union is supposed to happen in this connection, integration must occur internally first. And when integration stabilizes internally, relational systems reorganize accordingly. So what does that feel like? It can feel like there is no connection anymore. There is no third energy. There is no field. There might not be union. This shift is asking to release everything and to fully embody your own inner polarity without hope, without validation. Now, I want to be really clear here, because I am not saying at all that the twin flame journey is not about union or is not about reconnection with the divine masculine, because sometimes I feel that people misunderstand when I talk about this journey of being a process of integration. I really, really don't feel that this is not about expressing this on the outside, because I do. What I am saying is that the divine counterpart activates a whole spiritual awakening and a deep process of integration. It's changing relationship patterns and the way they have been for a very, very long time. And we are learning to become this beautiful, sovereign being that can love from wholeness, that can express love from wholeness and share that with a divine counterpart. And what is happening right now is a phase where we learn to embody sovereignty. And we do that within. Now, like I said, not everybody is on the same phase in their journey. Everybody's journey is very specific, unique, individual. And you might have already done this work, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe last year. maybe this is completely new to you, but wherever you are, the collective energy is inviting this to do. Now, some people say, oh, you shouldn't listen to collective energy anymore because it is bringing you further away from your authority, from your own sovereignty. But the way that I look at this is the astrology functions like a climate, and personal events and personal journeys, they function like the weather. So the climate shapes the conditions and the weather varies individually. So integration is available in the climate, but the response remains individual. And so it is up to you whether this is an invitation that you feel like taking. And the way that I always read the collective energy is, how can this help me in my spiritual journey towards a deeper embodiment, towards sovereignty? So not like, what are the planets or the cards saying about when he's returning? I'm always offering clarity about what I feel is going on, about what I see happening, so that you can feel you're not alone in this. You're not crazy for experiencing all of these things. It just makes it a lot less scary when you realize that there's so many other people that are going through this, that this is a phase, and that you are actually not regressing or not feeling stuck or not repeating the same thing without any shift, because you are shifting. This is a phase, and you are stepping deeper into that sovereignty. And honestly, I feel so much love and gratitude for all of those beautiful divine feminines that are doing this, that are taking that step, that are alchemizing and transforming, and that are the leaders. Even if you don't feel like a leader, even if you feel sometimes like a failure, or you feel discouraged, just know that you are doing this. If you've listened to this video until the end, you are so doing this. Now, if you'd like to go a little deeper into this integration and embodiment journey, if you feel like you need a little bit more support, I have created this activation and integration guide. It's a free guide where I map this shift from activation into collapse, into integration and embodiment. And it's full of resources on how you can navigate this. But if you like a little more personal support, you can either join the Living Sophia membership on Substack, and you can ask me questions there. Or, of course, you can book a private session where we can really go into your own journey and where you feel that you might need a little bit more support, or you'd like in-depth guidance throughout your whole journey, where we deep dive on your personal shadows, your personal patterns, your personal gifts, your purpose, your soul's mission. That is all available. You can check my website for that. But to close off this video, I would like to ask you, can you feel this invitation to hold love and boundary at the same time, and to carry your love in graciousness, to stay open without collapsing? And if necessary, can you walk away without bitterness? Can you validate your own growth without external confirmation? If you'd like, you can share in the comments. I really love to read all of them. Just remember, this is not a regression. This is an evolution. And I'm sending you so much love. Bye.